Think about what has happened to Michigan State football in the last year. Mel Tucker to Jonathan Smith, a lot of stuff in between. But the Spartans are ready for the great reset of 2024. Lockdown Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKDOWN for $20 off your first purchase. So the great reset at Michigan State in East Lansing. We'll discuss it. Plus, we'll take a look and we'll try and find some wins on that schedule. Plus, for our picks segment, we're going to compare win totals from Vegas from February to now. They're moving. See where your favorite Big Ten team is predicted to be on that chart. Meanwhile, think about where we were 1 year ago today with the Michigan State Spartans. Mel Tucker was getting ready to travel to Indianapolis for Big Ten Media Days in the summer of 2023. He had recently been rewarded for his 11-1 record in 2021 with a staggering 10-year, $95 million contract. That deal paved the way for some other bigger deals that you see. They're becoming a little more commonplace throughout college football with other coaches. But a 5-7 record in 2022 had some Spartans feeling a little buyer's remorse, right? Remember that? So there was some pressure on Tuck going into 2023. And at the time, he was going into media days a year ago. We didn't know all this in the public or the media. But he knew, as he was going to Indianapolis, that there was a firestorm of accusations brewing behind the scenes. And some people at Michigan State knew as well, because there was an investigation going on. He would soon be publicly accused of sexual harassment and exploitation of a rape survivor, activist Brenda Tracy, who he had hired to coach his players about sexual violence. Tucker had maintained that he was in a consensual relationship with Tracy all along. Well, that fell apart. That got messy fast. And so after a 2-0 start to the season, Tucker was suspended and eventually fired for cause by the university. Soon after the season started, Michigan State football was an absolute chaos. Harlan Barnett, as you remember, was promoted to interim head coach. He now, by the way, is the defensive backs assistant coach at Northwestern, just in case you are wondering. And longtime former head coach Mark D'Antonio came out of retirement to roam the sidelines as an emeritus assistant head coach to calm the seas. Everything that was going on at the time. So we also found out along the way that right there, week one, before all this went public, there was some other stuff going. A man believed to be Connor Stallions, from Michigan Spygate, was allegedly on the opposing sideline for the Spartan season home opener against Central Michigan. Did that allegedly happen? How did it happen? We still don't have answers to what was going on that day. We think we do, but we don't have definite answers. And then Spygate got so bad that Michigan State actually threatened to cancel its game with Michigan right in the middle of the season in the name of player safety. After all, how could their players be safe if Michigan allegedly knew all their plays in advance? The game went on, and Michigan beat Michigan State 49-0 in that game. Anyway, that was just one game on the way to a 4-8 record and a 2-7 mark in the Big Ten last year. It wasn't pretty. I wonder, had things remained calm and stable and had Mel Tucker and his incident never happened, would the season's outcome have been any different? We can't say for certain. I'm not sure. But after a reported flirtation with former Ohio State head coach Urban Meyer, remember that during the coaching search, they landed on Oregon State coach Jonathan Smith and hired him with a 7-year, $53 million deal. It's a good contract. Much less than what the Mel Tucker deal was that preceded it, but nevertheless. So whether the school hired Urban or eventually landing on Smith, they had enough going on behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, on the football field, and they were sick and tired of the little brother comparisons to Michigan. And it didn't help that the Wolverines were on their way to a 15-0 season, national championship, and the 49-0 beatdown. But they were ready to move this football program forward. I think that's why the rumors of the reports of Urban Meyer back and forth. I think there are some people at Michigan State were like, whatever it takes, we got to get this football program going on a higher arc. And I think they legitimately had a couple conversations with Herbs at the time. But they get Smith. He comes in from Oregon State, who was a good coach, had a good thing going until the Pac-12 blew up around him. Suddenly he's at a school at Oregon State. Oregon State and Washington State were the only two left standing once the Pac-12 blew up. He says, well, I might as well come to the Big Ten and go to Michigan State. So he parachuted on there. Now he's at East Lansing. Before we continue talking about him and what he's had to do for this Michigan State program, one more last thought on Mel Tucker. What about Mel Tucker? Well, in case you were wondering what he's been up to, he's been busy in the courtroom. He'll be suing the university for wrongful termination, but to my knowledge has not actually filed it just yet. He's got $75 million remaining on that contract that he wants to get. Spartans don't want to pay him any of it. He wants all of it. We'll argue about whether the firing was just or not. And he's still claiming that his relationship with Tracy was consensual. By the way, he's in court against her as well. And he's in court going through a divorce from his wife of 25 years. So enter Jonathan Smith to East Lansing. Before the ink was dry on his contract, he got in his car and he drove to every high school within a 4-hour drive in Michigan, and got to know all the football coaches and got to know the local scene and started to recruit right away. Now, his best move was to get his former quarterback at Oregon State, Aiden Chiles, to transfer with him to East Lansing. Good move, done deal. He's going to be the guy this year. In fact, I'm looking at 9, I think up to at least 9 of Michigan State's 22 position players. 9 of their starters are going to be transfer players. Going to be a lot of new faces this year for Michigan State. Absolutely. So that's a rebuild. And that's a quick way to do it these days with the transfer portal as opposed to recruiting from the high schools. Now, Chiles is promising. He's young. So Smith got an experienced quarterback to back him up, and Tommy Schuster from North Dakota State. Pretty good move there as well. On that same day that he got Smith, on that same day, Smith brought in another Oregon State player, center/guard Tanner Miller, to come to Michigan State. He was all conference. He'd be a nice anchor to that offensive line. Now, let's not forget, he also got his tight end, Jack Velling, to come in. So Velling with a little bit of chemistry with Chiles, a little connection. Your tight end could be your best friend as a quarterback. They're coming in together. So some familiarity for them. That's good. Now, let's talk about the defensive line for a little bit. All 4 starters on the defensive line, all redshirt seniors, experience, size, playing time, plus a couple of them are transfers. Quindarius Dunningham, he's a defensive end from Middle Tennessee, all Conference USA, should be able to help. Defensive tackle Daquan Dowsey, Georgia Tech, 44 games of experience, 1,169 snaps in his career that he's been on the field. More experience. This is experienced front 4 up front defensively. This should be one of the anchors, one of the strengths of this Michigan State football team. They also got some infusion of talent at linebacker. Wayne Matthews III. He's coming in from Old Dominion. 2 years left. You may say Old Dominion. Now he's playing Big Ten football. Well, he was the number 4 ranked linebacker in the transfer portal. So that's a good get. Also, Jordan Turner comes in from Wisconsin. Big Ten familiarity. He's actually from Farmington Hills, Michigan. So bit of a homecoming for him to come to Michigan State. And he's got 30 games of experience playing for the Badgers, and he's a good tackler. So these pieces are coming together here. Now, how quickly can these pieces come together and result in wins? I'm not sure about that at this time. That's going to be tough. Soon enough to make a huge difference, I don't know about this season or not. We'll take a look at that in a moment. I definitely think you are going to see an improved football program from top to bottom. I think things are trending in the right direction. I think this was a good hire, and we'll see how year one turns out. By the way, if you like what you see or hear here on Locked On Big Ten, be sure to subscribe. We're asking everybody to subscribe if you haven't yet. A lot of you have. A year ago, we talked about what things were like for Michigan State a year ago. A year ago, we started this channel. We inherited it. It had 1,200 subscribers. We're blowing past 9,000. We're on the march to 10,000. Our goal is to get to 10,000 before the start of the season. You can help us out. If you haven't yet, click the subscribe button, and that's it. No other information or cost required. It's free. Subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. If you're audio only on Apple or whatever, that comes out at 4 a.m. Eastern time every day. The video version on YouTube comes out at 6 a.m. every day Eastern time. Hey, since we're talking about the Spartans here, don't forget to go to our website, Talk Big 10, number 10. Don't spell it out. TalkBig10, number 10.com. All of our podcasts are there chronologically, and we group them by school as well. So this will be, you Michigan State fan, go click on Michigan State. You'll see all the podcasts where we had a Michigan State centric podcast there. Plus, get your merchandise for the 2024 college football season. Get yourself some shirts and some hats and t-shirts and pennants and coffee mugs, all for Michigan State. Get ready for the season right there at our website, talkbig10.com. Check it out. All right, we are going to navigate the Spartan schedule, and we are going to try and figure out how many wins we think they will get. And then at the end, we're going to see what Vegas has to say. Anytime we talk about a team and their upcoming season, we always have a segment going through their schedule trying to predict wins. Our wins have been pretty close to what Vegas says they're going to be on most of these teams. Couple of exceptions. I'll point them out. There's been some movement from the last time we did this in February till now. That means money's going a certain way. Vegas moves the line the other way, right? So we will take care and look at that. But first, the Spartans schedule. That's coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. I want to tell you about Game Time. You want to get some tickets? You want to go to some games? Game Time is where it is at. Download the Game Time app on your phone. You'll be good to go. By the way, this summer, go to a Major League Baseball game. They are the authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets easier and faster. And there's a little secret. Prices on the Game Time app can actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. They have a lot of last minute deals. As a matter of fact, no matter what you're buying, you can save up to 60% on buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy tickets, theater. If it has a ticket, you can get it at Game Time. So check that out right now. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, and get $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Well, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate you everydayers. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. Share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget to check out our website, talkbig10.com. All right. Let's take a look at this Spartan schedule for the upcoming season, and we'll see where we think the win total will come in. All right, first game, Friday. Got that Friday night opener. They were able to take the Florida Atlantic game, make it Friday. They like to open on Fridays with Michigan State recently. So Friday, August 30th, Florida Atlantic, 7 o'clock. That's on the Big Ten Network. I'll be watching that. I think this is a win. Okay, I think we're fair in saying that. Then they go on the road and taking on a Maryland team, 3:30 Big Ten Network. I said when this is a 50-50 game. And being on the road, I'm not sure. I'm not going to automatically say this is a win. Let's say 1-1 out of the box here. Maybe they win it though. Maybe. Prairie View A&M, September 14th, 3:30 Big Ten Network. That should be a win. So there's 2 wins. September 21st, at Boston College. Bill O'Brien took over. New changes over there. I think this is a winnable game for Michigan State. 3-1 out of the box. Then the problems start to happen, right? September 28th. It's at home at least, but you got Ohio State. Probably not going to win that. Ohio State's going to maybe win every one of their games, most of them. Same thing for the following game at Oregon. You're going from hosting Ohio State to going to Oregon October 4th. That's going to be tough. There's a couple of, being a road game is going to be tough. The following week, though, Oregon has Ohio State. That's maybe the biggest game of the year. Maybe they're looking ahead. Maybe they look ahead of Michigan State. Maybe. But probably not going to win that game. And then they come home to take on Iowa. And again, I think Iowa's going to be pretty hard. I'm not giving Michigan State this win. And then the following week at Michigan. That's 4 games in a row. That could be 4 losses in a row. It could after a 3-1 start. Ohio State, at Oregon, Iowa, at Michigan. That's tough. That is a brutal section of schedule right there. After that, they host Indiana. That's a 50-50 game, but they could win it. They could win it. Go. That'd be 4 wins. At Illinois, another 50-50 game. They could win it or lose it. Either way. I'm not sure. I'm a fan of Luke Altmaier. You know, if you watch this podcast, I'm not going to win. They're not going to win all these. This group of Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers going down the stretch. Let's split a few of them. Let's say they beat Indiana. They lose at Illinois. They come home and beat Purdue. That's 5 wins. And then Rutgers. I think Rutgers will win that game on Saturday, November 30th. I think Rutgers is pretty good if people aren't aware of that. So I got 5 wins right there. If you get the Illinois game, that's 6. 5 or 6. So 5.5. That seems to be our number. We'll see what Vegas has to say, and we're going to compare the win total projections. We're going to go back because we did this in February in this segment, and we got the win totals, and we're going to compare them here to July. There's been some movement. That means there's some money flying around. Lines are changing. We'll take a look at all of that in just a minute. But also, I want to ask you, what are you watching in the daytime? You watching any TV? Are you at work? You at home? You got TV on in the background, watching maybe FS1, ESPN, whatever, with all the talking heads yelling at each other all day? You don't need to do that. You don't need to be annoyed by it. Instead, just turn down the volume. Go to Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. It's Locked On Sports Today, bringing you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, we're going to look ahead at these win totals. It's a composite of what Vegas says. We'll have all that coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, let's take a look at some win totals for Locked On Big Ten and all 18 teams. We'll go through these here. We just gave you Michigan State's schedule. We think between 5 and 6 wins. They get 6. That's going to be a great first season for Jonathan Smith. We'll see what Vegas has to say on the line. I'm going to put it on full screen. If you're audio only, I will describe it for you so you don't feel left out. But here we go. So, again, this is the difference between February and July. As you can see, Ohio State and Oregon, no change. The Vegas composite got both of these teams at 10.5 wins back in February. No change here in July. So that's the deal. Michigan has dropped a bit from 9.5 to 9. So what does that tell you? People were taking the under on 9.5. So Vegas decided to nudge it down a little bit. Okay. Penn State, steady, 9.5 wins, both in February and now going into the season. Maryland, they dropped from 7.5 to 7 wins. So again, that means people were taking the under on 7.5, and Vegas decided to nudge it down a little bit to catch up to the market. We still have to preview Maryland. See what they're going to do at quarterback with no Talia Tagovailoa at quarterback for Mike Loxley's group. So, but still, a lot of people predicting a bowl-eligible season for the Maryland Terps. Okay. Iowa, we previewed them earlier this week. And first of all, in February, Vegas said 7.5 wins. They moved them up to 8. That means people were taking the over. People were putting their money at over 7.5. Vegas trying to catch up a little bit, now nudging that to 8. And that's in the ballpark of what we said. We even said 9 is possible for Iowa this year. Certainly 8. So we're in line with this thinking. Nebraska, 7.5 wins. I think we came in at 8. So this is not far. No change in Nebraska from February to July. Washington, the Huskies, maybe a tough team to predict. The line in February for their win total was 7.5. It has dropped to 7. People taking the under. People don't think Washington. People don't know a lot about Washington. There's so many new players this year. Other newcomer to the Big Ten, USC, steady at Miller Moss at quarterback. Lincoln Riley, 7.5 in February, 7.5 wins now in July. That number is steady. The Wisconsin Badgers in February. Vegas had them at 6.5 wins. They have nudged it up because people were taking the over. Tyler Van Dyke coming in from Miami to be their quarterback. People expect an improved team, and so Vegas had to move that up to 7 from 6.5. So very interesting here. All right, let's take a look at the rest of the Big Ten. Rutgers, this is the one I find the most interesting. The Rutgers line. You know, we talked them up big when we previewed their season a few days ago. If you missed any of those previews, by the way, go back and check them out again at our website, talkbig10.com, talkbig10.com. So we talked Rutgers up big. Back in February, they were only expected to win 5.5 games. That was the number. And here it is in July. They've moved it up to 6.5. And again, trying to catch up with everybody. People were taking the over. I think you can go even higher with this, given their schedule, given their stability, given their running game, given their defense, given Greg Schiano and what he's doing. I would be very comfortable in going much higher than this. I think 7 or 8 or 9. There is a path to 10 wins. There is a path to 10 wins for Rutgers. Now that would be pie in the sky where everything goes right. If I were to pick a stone cold lock out of all 18 of these teams, take the over on the Rutgers number, even though it's nudged up 1. If you took the over in February, you got some great value and some comfort zone there. Northwestern has dropped from 5.5 to 4.5. All right. So yeah, they people aren't, Northwestern won 8 games last year. They won 1 the year before. They go up to 8. And still, it doesn't seem like people believe in them this year that they can do it again. Is it because of the stadium situation? Is it because, they're going to be playing in front of 15,000 fans and bleachers over on campus while they get their football stadium built? I'm not sure. Illinois remaining steady at 5.5 from February to July. Same thing with Indiana. Same thing with UCLA. All right, we just talked about Michigan State. We said 5 wins, right? Yeah, here's Vegas at 5.5 in February, dropping it to 5 in July. And Minnesota, 4.5 wins in February. They've increased it to 5.5. People were taking the over on that. I don't know. We did Minnesota on our podcast yesterday. We like PJ Fleck. We like the Minnesota program. We just don't see a lot of optimism this season. So I'm a little surprised by this move. But nevertheless, money talks. So those are the picks. Those are the lines from February to July. What do you think? A lot of these numbers match up with what we're doing as we preview each team every single day. And we put our own win totals on there. We're in line, pat on the back with a lot of this stuff, except that Rutgers one. Take the over on that one. FanDuel, check it out. One of our sponsors, of course. All right, so that's all good. Closing out another week. Busy week next week. We still have to preview the Maryland Terps football season. We still have to preview all 4 of the Pac-12 teams, Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA coming over the Big Ten. We're going to do that. And we've got Big Ten Media Days that start from Indianapolis. Tony Petitti, the commissioner, is going to speak on Tuesday. Obviously, he's going to be welcoming in the new teams. We still wonder if there's going to be more teams. We always like to keep our eyes out for news on expansion and realignment moving into the future. As you know, if you watch this podcast, we talk about it all the time. That's what we're going to be keeping an eye on. Plus all the coaches that talk next week. There's always some news breaking. There'll be some players there. We'll keep an eye on all that for you. And of course, we'll have some pretty strong opinions about it. We do fact and strong opinions on everything that's going on right here on this podcast. If you have a friend who is a Big Ten alum or fan and they're not aware of us, let them know about us. Word of mouth is great. You're here. Bring them with us. All of us. Subscribe and be part of this podcast each and every day. And that helps us out quite a bit. Again, you can interact with us on Twitter or X, Talk Big Ten, at Talk Big Ten. Comments on YouTube, and then our website, talkbig10.com, where we have all of our podcasts and all your merchandise of your favorite team, your favorite school, right there, all in one place. Check it out. So have yourself a great weekend. And but before you go, subscribe and watch another episode over the weekend of Locked On Big Ten and tell your friends about it. You can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And when you're done with us, check out our friends at Locked On Sports Today. It is here for you 24/7, covering the sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, that'll do it. Another great visit. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Can't wait till we talk next week. Next week's going to be a big, big week. So make sure you check in with us right here. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. Talk to you next time.